If you want to learn about copywriting and more importantly, how to actually make money with it, then this is going to be the video for you. What's up, y'all? It's your boy Nate Schmidt back with another video. This has been a very highly requested one. I'm actually really excited to share this with you and make this video. I know that my channel is really centered around dropshipping and e-commerce, but something a lot of you may not know is that I didn't actually get my start in online business with e-commerce or dropshipping. The way I got my start in business was basically by just writing emails for businesses, and that's really where the skill of copywriting comes in. So I put together this little presentation here for y'all. We're going to go through this. And basically, I want to show you this really solid alternative to e-commerce and dropshipping. But in my opinion, if you're a complete beginner, and especially if you're broke, a lot of people try dropshipping and they just do not simply have the funds to actually do it successfully. This is a really good alternative because it does not require any money upfront. When I say it's literally 100% free, like I mean it, it's literally 100% free. It does not cost a single penny to get started with this. It doesn't quite have the huge scalability that dropshipping does, but in my opinion, it is the best way to start making your first $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 or so a month online. So in this video, here is what we're going to cover. I'm going to explain to you what freelance copywriting actually is, what the business model is, and how it works. I'm going to show you why it's probably better than dropshipping for like 90% of people. I'm going to show you exactly what tools and softwares you need to succeed with it. I'm going to explain step by step exactly how I use this business model to make my first $3,000 online. I'm going to give you my best tips and really like the exact things that I did to actually learn and get good at copywriting fairly quickly. Like I'm talking, you can do this probably in as little as a month. Then we're going to go through and I'm going to show you my exact process for how I actually got clients to pay me upwards of $1,000 a month to do this for them. And then finally, I'm going to close it off with some sort of mindset stuff to make sure that you're in the right mindset and actually know how to operate so that you can do this successfully, and give you some really solid final tips that I don't think you'll want to miss. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the free copywriting course that I have for you here. So first of all, obviously we have to know actually what copywriting and freelance copywriting are. Copywriting is essentially the skill of writing words that sell. This skill goes into pretty much every business because in pretty much every business, you're going to be using words to sell your products. Things like emails, sales letters, ad copy, product copy, even things like billboards. Any sort of marketing material that is meant to move people to take some sort of action, the words in that are copy. And while you might not think much of it, the way words are written, what words you use and how you structure them, they greatly influence the response rate that you get in regards to how many sales you make or whatever it is that you're trying to get people to do. The better and more persuasive your copy is, the more people are going to buy, the more money you're going to make, the happier you're going to be, the better life's going to be. I'm not going to go too in depth on that because I think it's a pretty simple concept that especially if you're into e-commerce or dropshipping, you should already kind of have a basic understanding of what this is. Now, that's copywriting, so then what is freelance copywriting? Well, if copywriting is the skill of writing words that sell, then freelance copywriting is offering that skill that you have of writing words that sell to businesses that sell products and then paying you for it in return. If you can write better copy than whoever that business has writing copy for them at the time, then you're going to directly increase their revenue, and as a result, they're going to pay you a little bit of money in return. Now, here's the basic process of how this works. Obviously, out there in the world, there are millions of different businesses that sell products. Just about all of these businesses, they all want to sell more of their products. They all want to make more money. So let's say you have the skill of copywriting, you reach out to these businesses and you say, hey, I have a skill that can directly increase your revenue. You want to sell more products? I can help you sell more products. Let's talk. You get them on the phone, you contact them in some way, you persuade them like, yeah, I can do this. Your business will make more money if you pay me. Let's do this thing. They're like, okay, yeah, okay, maybe let's do this thing. Business gives you some money. You write copy of some sort, emails, sales letters, product copy, ad copy, whatever it may be. You write copy of some sort that directly increases their revenue. That business is now selling more products. That business is now making more money. And that business is like, well, you're making us more money, so we want to keep paying you money. If you're going to keep making us money, we want to keep paying you money. Everyone's making money. Everyone's happy. And then it all results in Lambos. Oh, probably not actually Lambos, but you know. Now, here's why I think that this business model can actually be better than dropshipping. For one, as I mentioned, there are literally zero startup costs. I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do to get started with this, and it does not require any sort of money whatsoever. Unlike dropshipping, where most of the time when you start, you're probably going to fail right off the bat, with this, it gives you the ability to make money very quickly. Not only that, but I think the most valuable part of it is that it builds the number one skill I think you need to succeed in business, which is knowing how to present things and what to say and how to say it to get people to actually buy from you. If you know how to present things so that people will actually buy, then you have an extremely valuable skill and you know how to sell the hell out of some products, and you're going to be successful in just about any business you try to start down the line. Another big reason it's great is because it's very easy to fail quickly, which means the more you fail, if you've watched some of my other videos about failure, you'll know that the more you fail and the faster you fail, the more likely and faster you are to succeed. It's also a very in-demand skill. As I mentioned, every business in the entire world wants to sell more products. This skill directly helps businesses sell more products, therefore it's a very in-demand skill. And honestly, I really do think that this is a skill that is really a prerequisite to even get started in business. If you join our Boss Builder e-commerce program, you'll notice that before you even get into anything e-commerce related, we actually make you learn the skill of copywriting first. All right, so at this point, we've gone over some of the background information. I've showed you, generally speaking, how this works and how I was able to use this to make my first $3,000 or so online. Now let's really get into the specifics, the details, and the step-by-step of exactly how to get into this type of business. So first, what tools do you need? What do you actually need to physically have or have on your laptop, softwares, things like that? What do you need to actually succeed with this? Honestly, it's pretty fucking basic. Obviously, you need an internet connection. I hope that was pretty obvious. You need an email address, which I'm guessing you probably already have. You need some basic copywriting skills, which I'm going to show you exactly how to learn in a minute. You need some basic cold outreach skills, which we're actually going to cover in depth a little bit later in this video. You need the ability to accept payment, either Stripe, PayPal. You can even have people mail you checks. I've actually done that before. You need some way for people to pay you. And probably most importantly, what you really need to succeed with this is some serious grit and determination and massive steel balls. Well, with dropshipping and things like that, you kind of get to fail on your own. No one really has to see that. This business is definitely not for the faint of heart. It absolutely requires you to be able to face rejection. If you don't have a strong mindset, then this business might not be for you. But overall, you don't really need much of anything other than a laptop to succeed with this business. And honestly, you don't actually even need your own laptop. When I was first starting with this stuff, my laptop broke and I ended up having to go to the library, and I didn't even have my own laptop. I was going to the library and using the free computer access at the library to do this. So unless you live in some sort of Alaskan village where you don't have internet, I really don't think there's any excuse not to be able to succeed with this. Now, here is how I made my first $3,000 online with this. The basic process was first I learned the basic principles of copywriting. It's honestly a very simple skill to learn. It doesn't really require all that much time. If you want to actually master it and get really, really good at it, then it's going to take a shit ton of time. I don't even think I'm a technical, master of copywriting. But to learn the basic principles enough so that you can go out and get other businesses results, it's pretty simple. In the next slides, I'm actually going to go through and break down each of these steps more in detail, but this is just kind of the overall layout. Once I learned these basic principles, I put together a basic offer and decided what kind of copy I was going to write and who I was going to write it for. From there, I used Google basically to identify businesses that I wanted to work with. I'd get a little crafty and figure out who the decision maker was and locate their contact info. There's some softwares and stuff that you can use to help with that as well. We're going to go over that here in a little bit. I sent literally hundreds of cold outreach messages, cold emails, things like that. Got rejected 90% of the time, and probably more than 90%, probably 95% of the time. But with enough persistence, I was eventually able to get on the phone with a couple people. And from there, I was able to close a few clients on monthly retainers for me to write emails for them. You'll see on the right here, we have some screenshots from PayPal. These are super old. I'm surprised I actually still have these. But you'll see these are some of the payments that I was getting for these services that I was providing with freelance copyright. $500 here, $700 here, $1,000 there, whatever. It's not crazy Lambo money, but it is money, and it's real money, and it could be life-changing for you depending on the situation that you're in. Now, let's get into the more specific stuff. Now, obviously, before we actually go out and get clients to pay us for our skills, we have to actually learn the skill. Now, there's a lot of ways to do this, but I'm just going to kind of give you the rundown of exactly what I did. And again, as I've been saying, it was really, really, really simple. First thing I did was I read a few books. I believe the first book I read was actually this book right here, The Copywriter's Handbook by Bob Bly. I highly, highly, highly recommend that book. Some other ones I read, this book will teach you how to write better by Neville Midhora, Cashvertising by Drew Eric Whitman, The Boron Letters by Gary Halbert. Those are actually free online. If you just look up Boron Letters, Gary Halbert, those will come up. I read a couple of these books just to get a basic understanding of what this skill is and how it works. Now, a little plug, if you want to kind of skip the process of learning from different books and trying to search out your own resources, I do have the full version of my copywriting course. This video is kind of a condensed version of that, but I do have the full version of my copywriting course. It's called Brain Dead Simple Copy. The link's in the description. On this video only, it's a ridiculous $350 off or something like that. Normally it's $467. I think it's $98 right now. So little plug there if you want to get that. That's going to kind of help you just skip through having to go through all these different resources. But either way, from there, once I had a basic understanding of copywriting from reading these books, I went to actually figure out, okay, how does this actually work? What do people do? How does this actually look in the real world? To do that, what I did is basically study and analyze successful copywriters. Ben Settle, I highly, highly, highly recommend you look into his stuff. His podcast, his emails, everything like that, I really studied what he was doing and how he was doing it. He owns an info publishing business, and he makes pretty much all of his money exclusively through writing email copy. So I went through and I studied all of his emails to figure out, okay, what is he doing here? What is he doing there? How is he structuring things? What are the different things that he's trying to accomplish in each email? I just tried to go behind the scenes and figure out why he was doing certain things and why they were actually working. Another thing I studied was old school sales letters on a website called swiped.co. It's an incredible resource. They have a bunch of old school sales letters from the time before the internet was actually around, when people were writing sales letters and copy through direct mail. Really fascinating business model back then. Before the internet, people used to send letters just out to people's mailboxes, and they would send these cold letters with just a bunch of copy trying to sell their products and services. The people who were good at that, they made a shit ton of money, and they were a really good source of study because you knew what they wrote worked. That was a really good resource, and really it wasn't just those two. There's a lot of different stuff that I was studying. I was really just studying any good copy that I could get my hands on. From there, what I did was I hand copied sales letters. I'm not really sure how impactful this was, and I hear differing opinions on this, and honestly, I'm not a huge fan of this anymore, but it's something I did, and I think that it was very helpful to go on these websites like swipe.co, find these really good sales letters that have been working really, really well for decades, pull them up on my computer, write them out by hand, and just kind of go through that process over and over again and start to get an understanding of what good copy looks like and how to actually formulate it. Now, that said, that is how I learned copywriting. There's a difference between learning and actually getting good. I think it's a pretty key distinction that a lot of people don't really think of. It's not just enough to learn something. You have to actually get half decent at it if you want to actually make money with it. So here's how I did that. First, I decided on the niche that I wanted to write in. I did a bunch of research and I was trying to figure out, like, should I write for this? Should I write for this? What kind of thing should I niche down to? And what I ended up deciding on was fitness and supplements and that sort of thing. The reason I decided on that was because just kind of intuitively, I understood that fitness and health and supplements, these are a huge market. People are always going to be interested in these products. There are a lot of different businesses selling products in these types of niches. There's a very strong innate human desire to just look good, look attractive, be fit, not be fat, etc., etc. So that's why I went with that. Once I decided that I wanted to write in that sort of niche, then I just started doing a shit ton of research on that niche. I found dozens of different companies who were selling products in that niche. I would go to their websites, I would study them, I would see what they were doing and try to figure out why I thought it was working. I'd look at what people who were customers of that niche were saying, the things that they were interested in, why they bought certain products, what they really cared about, try to get a really good idea of actually who makes up this market. From there, I found, 1 to 3 or so really good copywriters in that niche, really good examples of copy that I could look at and study and say, okay, like this is a really solid example. I can model what I do after this. I analyzed like literally everything they were doing, from emails to sales letters to sales pages to everything that I could get my hands on. I was studying what they were doing and trying to figure out why it was working. And then this is probably the most important part. How I actually got good at copywriting was, surprise, surprise, by writing copy. In doing my research, I found a bunch of companies that were in my niche that I wanted to write copy for. So I would go to their websites, I would go see what they were doing with their emails and everything they were doing in regards to their advertising. And I would kind of act like I was tasked with making it better, improving the copy, making it convert better, making it more persuasive. I'd basically spend at least 1 hour per day, like every single day, just rewriting copy that I'd found from companies in my niche. And again, I know this is not like very complex. The human brain has this tendency to make you think that things are really complex when they're actually not. This is very, very simple. You don't have to overcomplicate this. Now, I probably did this for like 2 to 3 months straight. I don't think I needed to do it that long at all. I was really more so stuck in that kind of beginner loop of death that I've talked about in one of my other videos, where I was just not taking action. I didn't feel like I was ready, but really I probably was a lot sooner than I actually started. So that's kind of the first part of this free course of this video is first, okay, learning copywriting and actually getting good at it. That's the first part. The second part, and really the beef of this video, is going to be how to actually go out and get clients, because in my opinion, that's really the hard part. Getting good at copywriting, very, very simple. Read books, find sales letters, analyze them, hand copy them, find examples of good copy, analyze it, rewrite it yourself, write practice copy every single day. There's really not a whole lot to it. I really think it just requires you to put in consistent daily effort, and really the easiest way to do that, at least for me, was really just to become obsessed with it. Once I found out about this stuff, I literally let it consume my life. I thought it was the coolest thing in the entire world, the idea of just switching around words on a page. Just that alone having such a big impact that it could actually make me money. That was just the coolest thing in the world to me. I thought it was awesome. I became obsessed with this, and I really spent like a huge portion of my time on this for a solid 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever. Now, all that out of the way, how do you actually go and get people to pay you for this? So step 1 of getting clients is to define your ideal client and solidify your offer. And really that just means you have to figure out who you're actually going to write copy for, i.e. like what niche, what market are you going to write copy in? And then you have to figure out what exactly you're going to offer them, i.e. what kind of copy you're going to write. To make this a little bit easier, you can kind of put it in this format that I have down here. I'm going to offer blank to blank. For me, that looks like I'm going to offer email copywriting services to fitness and supplement companies. Now, I've also written down some little bullet points, some tips here for you when you're trying to choose these two things. For one, you want it to be specific. You don't want to just say, I'm going to write copy for businesses that sell physical products, because that is such a broad market. Physical products is such a broad thing that could mean literally anything in the entire world. You want to niche down and choose one specific market, one specific area that you're going to specialize in, because that's just going to make things a lot easier for you when you're going out to get clients. You want it to be going out and doing a bunch of different research in a bunch of different niches. You can really just focus on one specific niche, focus all your efforts there, and really position yourself as kind of like the expert in that niche. Another tip is you want to only really target businesses and niches that are already hiring copywriters. This can be kind of hard to tell sometimes, but the main reason that you want to pay attention to this is that you don't want to be pitching your services to people who don't even really care about copywriters in the first place. If they don't see the value of really well-written copy and understand that it can have a dramatic effect on their bottom line, then you're just going to be trying to convince them that your services are even worth it in the first place. You don't really even want to do that. You want to find people who already understand the power of really solid copy, and then that way you only really have to convince them that you're the person for the job and not that they even need your services in the first place. They already understand that they need your services. You just have to convince them that you're the right person for it. Usually a fairly easy way to tell if a business is hiring copywriters is if they're already spending money on some sort of advertising. If they're running ads on Google, if they're running ads on Facebook, there's a good chance that they understand the value of good copy and might be open to paying someone to improve their existing copy. And really just an easy way to think about it is to just start with one of the big 3 markets. The big 3 markets are health, wealth, and relationships. These are really like the big 3 things that people care about in life. They want to be healthy, they want to have money, They want to have good friends, good relationships. They want to date someone. They want to marry someone. They want to be with someone and have a companion, things like that. If you start from there, it kind of gives you a big picture perspective. And from there, you can start with one of those and then kind of niche down until you have something that's more specific. And again, for me, that was like, okay, starting with health. Okay, from health, we can go down to, okay, fitness companies. Okay, starting with that, we can go from like fitness to like supplement companies. That was even more specific. Now, I will say, ideally, you do want this to be something that you're somewhat already interested in. It doesn't have to be like your one huge main passion. But like, for example, I probably wouldn't want to write copy for like companies that sell catheters or something, because I probably find catheters to be extremely boring, not really interesting to me at all. Preferably, you're going to be spending a lot of time on this. If you actually go through this and you actually end up writing copy and getting clients, you're going to be spending a lot of time writing copy in this niche. So you want it to be something that you're somewhat interested in. And then finally, just keep in mind that when you're choosing this, you're not chained to this forever. This can change, you can pivot, you can do different things. You just want to kind of solidify something to start, because that's going to make everything so much easier. Now, step 2, once you've solidified your offer, your positioning, and who you're actually going to write copy for, from there, then you need leads. You need some motherfucking leads. You need prospects to reach out to so that you can actually try and go out and get clients. It seems really intimidating, but it's really not all that difficult. And really, not only just this, but like this entire process, everything to do with freelance copywriting, a huge part of it is just using common sense. You know, they say like common sense ain't so common, but like, use your common sense. None of this is rocket science. The main way that I was able to find prospects to reach out to was really just looking at Google. I'd Google things like supplement companies, fitness companies. I'd look at the listings. I'd see all these different companies selling all these different products. I'd make lists. I'd go and look at Google Shopping, especially I mentioned, like, you know, if companies are spending money on paid ads, that's probably a good indicator that they're open to spending money on improving their paid ads and things like that. So I found a bunch of these companies. I made a big list of prospects that I could reach out to. I would look at what they were doing. I would figure out where they were using copy, you know, if they had a funnel, if they had different sales pages, if they were using mainly email. I would try to figure out roughly where I can improve their copy, and especially I would sign up for their email list, because again, my chosen type of copy that I was writing was email. Once you have a list of prospects to reach out to, then you need to find out who the decision maker is and who can actually give you permission and give you the money to actually go out and provide the service. I don't really have a whole lot of like specific tactical tips for finding out who the decision maker is. Like, you really just have to search around their website, do some Google searches, and just literally be crafty. Most of the time, it's really not all that hard to figure out who's running a company, who's the CEO, who can actually put you in charge of doing something like this. Once you figure that out, then obviously you need some way to get in contact with them. There's different ways you can do this, and actually in a little bit I'm going to show you some actual examples of emails and cold messages that I sent and that other students of mine have sent that have actually landed them clients. We're going to show you that in a second. But the main way that I did things was just finding their email address and then sending them a cold email. A tool that I use for that, this is kind of optional, but it was definitely helpful, is Hunter.io. Hunter.io is a really cool tool where you basically just put in the name of someone, i.e. the decision maker, and then you put in the name of the website, and then it will return you any public listings of email addresses that are found online. Sometimes it'll find an email address, sometimes it won't, but I mean, usually it's pretty intuitive. Most of the time, people don't really tend to make their email super cryptic. It's usually going to be something like their first name at their domain, first name, last name at domain, first initial last name at domain, things like that. It's really not rocket science. You just have to kind of guess and see. You won't be able to find every single email address, but honestly, what I ended up doing a lot of the time was just sending a bunch of emails to a bunch of different email addresses for the same person that I was kind of just guessing, and then most of the time they wouldn't go through, but sometimes they would, and then maybe I'd get a response. So you follow this process, Google different companies, look for companies that are spending money on paid ads, find out who the decision maker is, locate their email address or some way to contact them, make a list of your potential leads, and now boom, you have a list of leads to reach out to. All right, so once you have your leads, what do you actually say to them? What does that process look like to actually get them to pay you money? So I have the basic process up here. I want to go through that with you, and then I actually have some specific examples of cold emails I sent that actually landed me clients. The basic process, though, looks something like this. You're going to send them some sort of a cold message, a cold email, maybe a message on Instagram, maybe a message on LinkedIn, somewhere to contact them. From there, more than likely, they're probably not going to reply, or they're going to say no, and from there, you probably want to do some follow-up. Follow-up is really where I was able to land most of my clients. Most of the time, they did not just get back to me and say, yeah, let's do it right off the bat. It did require me to go back and follow up with them, in some cases like 5 or 6 times. From there, I would set a time to get on the phone with them. Once I got them on the phone, I would use my persuasive abilities, and we're going to go through kind of this process a little bit more in detail here in a second. Persuade them to basically let me write some sort of an email on a trial for them. My goal there was basically just to get them results as quickly as possible so that they could see that I was actually worth my salt. And then once I got them results, from there I would move to try to close them on some sort of a monthly retainer that was more consistent, more high ticket, and just a more sustainable source of income than just writing random emails here and there. So before I show you these actual emails I send that landed me clients, some of the main things that you want to pay attention to when you're writing your cold outreach messages are, for one, you want them to be concise and to the point. The first one I'm going to show you here in a second definitely breaks that rule, and I definitely should have been shorter. The people that you're going to be writing to, they're busy people, they have lives, they don't have all the time in the world to just be reading random emails sent to them by random strangers. you want to get to the point very quickly and be concise about it. Another thing you want to do, and this is something that you'll also learn when you actually learn about the skill of copywriting, is you want to be kind of informal, write in a very conversational tone, and actually try to even be funny. I found that humor really tends to set your emails apart. If you can put a smile on someone's face, what you're going to kind of do is bring their guard down a little bit, and instead of just thinking, oh, this is just some guy who's trying to pitch me something, they're going to be like, oh, wow, this guy's actually funny. Maybe I should get on the phone with him. And then finally, you want them to be benefit driven. You want them to be focused near solely not on what you do and your skills, but on their business and how what you do is actually going to benefit them. As I mentioned, there's a few ways you can do this. My preferred method was email. You can also do Instagram DM. You can reach out to people on LinkedIn. There's also probably a bunch of other different ways you can reach out to people, but I think those are really some of the main ones. Now, here are two examples of emails I send that actually landed me clients. This first one here, I'm not going to read this entire thing because it's really, really long, but I'll go through and I'll kind of give you a sort of basic gist of what this looked like. So you can see the subject line is how you can increase the lifetime value of, that's the name of the company that's blocked out right there, customers by over 250% only using email. I reached out, I kind of introduced myself, and then I basically just pitched them and said, hey, I think I can make more money. Here's what I think you should do. Here's how I would make you more money. Went through a bunch of examples and stuff. This is honestly like really, really long. I wouldn't recommend making a cold email nearly this long. But regardless, it did the job. It got someone's attention. It took me a lot more follow-up. I'm actually going to show you those messages in the next slide with the actual follow-up messages I sent and how many times it actually took me to close this client. All right, if you're wondering why I'm wearing different clothes, it's because I had to stop the recording there and pick it back up the next day. But I got everything back up here. Let's get back into it. So I showed you this email right here, this really long cold email that ended up landing me a client. On the right here, I also have another email. This is not quite a cold email. This is actually a pretty interesting situation. Long story short, this guy that I followed, Ben Settle, that I learned a lot of this stuff from, he had this little thing called email players. And if you were signed up for that, then occasionally he would send out opportunities for companies that were looking for copywriters. He did not actually do client work anymore, but companies would still reach out to him and ask him if he knew anyone who could do the work that they needed done for them. So he would send out an email, be like, yo, this guy needs a copywriter. You can email them. There's their email. So this is the email that I ended up sending. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but feel free to pause it and read through it if you want. It's much shorter and I think much better. I really did a good job in this one, in my opinion, of actually incorporating humor and really doing something that I also learned from this original guy, Ben Settle, called making the skeleton dance. You notice I start the email pretty much right off the bat saying, let me set out my credentials straight and clear. I have none. I talk about how I barely have any experience whatsoever. And basically I'm just very upfront about the fact that I don't have a whole lot of experience, but then I kind of tie it back in and talk about how, while I don't have a lot of experience, I am very driven. I do have these potential good qualities that might be actually better for you. This email ended up being enough to get me on the phone with the CEO of this company. It's actually like a pretty big supplement company, like 7-8 figure supplement company. I was able to get on the phone with the CEO, and I guess for whatever reason, he took kind of a liking to me, and we ended up working together, and I ended up getting paid to write emails for this company. So there's some solid examples of emails I actually sent that got me clients. Now, as I mentioned, that first email that I just showed you, while it did end up helping me land that client, it was not that email that actually landed me that client. There was a lot of follow-up that had to go into that, and that's what I want to show you right here. So I have up this kind of like all the screenshots of this email conversation. So this is what they replied back to me to that first email. They said, thank you for taking the time to email us. This time we're happy with the direction the business is heading, blah, blah, blah. Not interested in your services. There's a change of plans, so we'll reach out to you, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that is what they replied. At that point, I was kind of like, oh, damn, all right, well, it was a good shot, whatever. But then about a week later, I thought, well, you know what? They replied back. Most people didn't even reply back. This lead is definitely warmer than most of the people that I've been trying to contact. Let me reach out to them again and see if I can change their mind. So that's exactly what I did. And this email right here that you see, this is the actual email that I sent. Now, honestly, I'm not quite sure if the content of this email is all that important. I really wouldn't read too much into this if you're just kind of looking into this and you're kind of looking for what to send in your specific emails. Don't so much look at the content of this, but look at kind of what I was doing and why. I think the main things to take away from this are kind of in this email, what I was able to do is really create a vision of an opportunity of things that I could really bring them if they actually brought me on to do these things that I wanted to do for them. Again, I also was very straightforward about the fact that I don't have a lot of experience and that it might be a little bit risky working with me. And finally, I tried to incorporate a little bit of humor in there. At the end, I put, if you agree to the call, I might even let you hear my Eddie Murphy impression. So I sent that email and then I got this reply back. Nate, while you're persistent, I will give you that. What country are you working from? What kind of wage are you looking for? Maybe we can chat if I like your answers. So I actually couldn't find the email that I sent in reply to this. I'm guessing I basically just answered his questions. I was like, yo, I'm from the US. I'm not looking for anything too crazy. I'm really just trying to get my feet wet with this stuff, blah, 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 blah. I sent that reply and then no one got back to me. I went another 2 weeks or so and then I sent another email. This email I think is my favorite one of all the emails I sent and I think you'll see why. Basically in this email, what I did was I kind of framed it as a big joke that I was like a 1940s housewife waiting for her husband to return from war. It's basically the situation that I was in, just waiting to hear back from them to actually get on the phone so we could see if there was something we could do to work together. I said, I've been waiting by my windowsill, blank stare across my face, iPhone in hand, lonely as can be, waiting for you to pick up the phone and give little old me a ring. Basically, I was just super persistent and I was kind of funny about it. I tried to incorporate humor with it and just really come off as a likable person. And then finally, after sending all these emails back and forth, them not responding to me multiple times and me still going after them, I finally got this reply that said, give me your cell phone number and I will call you. So what I have for this slide when it comes to ruthless follow-up, most people that you reach out to are not going to get back to you. That's just the nature of the game. That's how things go. People are busy. They're not really looking for your services and people are getting pitched all the time and you don't really stand out unless you do something like this. I really recommend that you do not get discouraged. It really can be discouraging when you're getting rejected over and over and over again without having any successes yet. But I promise you that if you stay consistent, you kind of follow this outline that I'm laying out for you here, it's going to be really hard not to get some clients eventually. My main tips for the follow-up are really just to use humor as much as possible. Again, humor brings people's guard down. It makes them more likely to like you and more likely to want to work with you. Keep your follow-up messages short and sweet. I think these even were a little bit too long. I honestly would probably make them a lot shorter nowadays if I were to do this now. And really, the main goal of these follow-up messages is just to stand out from everyone else that's pitching them already. In all likelihood, you're not the only person who has sent whoever you're pitching a pitch before. Definitely more likely that they get multiple pitches per day. If your pitch looks like everyone else, they're just going to ignore it. But if you kind of do things this way, you're funny, you're short, you're concise with it, you respect their time, and you really make an effort to talk about what you're going to do to benefit them. Most people who are sending cold pitches are not putting in nearly this much effort. They are not doing these things at all. So just doing these few things is really going to make you stand out and really going to make it a lot more likely that these people will actually get back to you. All right, now on to probably one of the scarier parts about this whole process, which is getting someone on the phone and attempting to close them to actually pay you money. Now, there's a lot of ways you can do this, and I'm not going to say that I have the best way or anything, but this is kind of what I did. These are the things that I use to really get my clients. So this is what I want to share with you. My kind of strategy, especially when I was first starting, was just to get them to allow me some sort of chance to do something with them so that I could prove myself. And then from there, once I had gotten them results, from there it would be a lot easier, I thought, to close them on some sort of a higher ticket deal. So basically what I would do is, once I was getting on a call with these people, I'd be like, yo, what's up? My name's Nate. This is what I want to do for you. This is what I think I can get for you. But I understand that you're probably a little hesitant, blah, 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 blah. Instead of paying me a bunch of money up front, let's do a little trial. Since I was doing email, that's kind of what I would offer. So I'd be like, yo, I'll write one email for you. We'll see how it goes. I personally think that I can generate this amount of money with just one email. All I ask is that you pay me this price, 1/10 of that, whatever it is. Pay me this little bit amount of money up front. If it doesn't work, then, not really a whole lot of risk for you. You lose a couple $100, whatever. If it does work really well, like I think it will, then from there we can talk about doing something a little bit more long-term. Blah, 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 stuff like that. So some of my main tips once you're on the phone with these people, number one is just to be really high energy, really excited, and just happy to be talking to them. Energy is kind of contagious, and if you come off as someone that is going to brighten their day, then your chances just skyrocket immensely. If they like talking to you, then they're going to think, oh, I like talking to him, so he'll probably be a pleasure to work with. That's really, really important. And then honestly, most of the time on these types of calls, you don't want to be talking all that much. For the overwhelming majority of these calls, really all you should be doing is asking questions. I'm going to show you some examples of the questions that I ask in these types of calls in the next slide. But basically what you're trying to do is, one, you're trying to figure out, can I actually even help them? Is their business a good fit for me? Do I think that I can actually get them some sort of a result? And then from there, you're also asking questions to kind of figure out what's going to make them say yes. Why do they make decisions? What's really driving them? What can I say to persuade them to give me this opportunity? By asking the right questions like this, what you're really doing is kind of helping them to realize that they have a problem that they need solved and that you're the person that can solve it for them. So basic structure of the call, the first thing you're going to do is obviously just kind of introduce yourself, hit them with a little bit of small talk. What I really like to do here is try to relate to them in some way and kind of make them think that I'm someone that's like them. I'll ask them a question, usually something pretty simple like, where are you calling from, or something like that. It says, oh, I'm calling from Austin, Texas. Then I'll follow up with, oh, dude, I was just in Austin 2 weeks ago. It was beautiful, man. I loved XYZ, whatever. You do that, and then really what you want to do in these kind of first few minutes of the call is kind of set the frame. I'm not going to go too much into detail on this because this isn't really a video about sales calls, but basically you're trying to kind of set the agenda for the call and make sure that they're on the same page and kind of put yourself in control of the call. And this doesn't have to be anything too complicated. You can just say something simple like, hey man, I really appreciate you taking the time to get on this call. What I want to do is I just want to ask you a few questions to kind of get an idea of where you're at, what your business is like, and kind of see if what I do can actually help you. From there, once I have a better understanding of you and your business, and if I think that it would be a good fit, if I think I can actually get you results, then I can tell you a little bit more about what I do, and then we can go from there, and maybe if it's the right fit, then we can work together. Something like that, just to kind of, just set the frame. That's really the best way I can describe it. From there, you're going to ask questions again, just like we talked about, kind of figuring out where they are now and kind of where they want to be, and then helping them realize that they have a problem that needs solved. Once you've asked all these questions and you've kind of figured out, okay, so this person actually probably is a good fit for my business. They are here, but they want to be here. I can help them get there. From there, you want to give your pitch in really as short as possible. Make sure they understand your services, but do not blabber on. And really, it's just a general rule, don't blabber on really at all as much as possible throughout these calls. Give your pitch state what the price is, and then just like shut the fuck up. From there, there's a lot of things that could happen. They could be totally down for it and say, yeah, let's do it. But more likely, they'll probably either be like, no, I don't think this is the right fit. Or they'll be like, okay, yeah, maybe, but, and then they'll have some objections that you'll have to overcome. From there, ideally, you can overcome those objections and then you close them, you take payment, and you're good. Now, just as a kind of reference, here are some of the questions that I like to ask on these types of calls. One of the first ones that I like to do is like, depending on what it is, right? For this, I was doing email. So I would say something like, hey, talk to me about your email marketing strategy. What are you doing there? How's that working for you? Et cetera, et cetera. Another good one is, what made you want to get on this call with me today? That question kind of frames things as their answer is basically them trying to convince themselves why they actually did this thing. I like this question a lot because what it does is it almost kind of forces your prospect to admit to themselves that they have a problem that they need solved. Really useful question there. Another kind of more general question you can ask is like, kind of what's your vision for your company in the next 6 months to a year? That's a really good question because generally speaking, most people who are really involved in their business really love talking about their business, and this is one of those questions that can just get them going on a huge rant that is going to give you a lot of information about them and their business that can be really helpful when you're trying to close them a little bit later. And then as a kind of final example of a question you can ask, you can say something like, do you think, whatever service you provide, right? In this example, do you think sending out weekly sales emails to your list of however many thousands of people would help you get whatever result they want, would help you make more money? This is a good question because in all likelihood, their answer is going to be yes. If the answer was no, then they probably wouldn't even get on the call with you in the first place. And again, also kind of gets them in that mindset of, I have a problem, this guy has the solution, let's do it. So there's some of the basics of kind of getting someone on the phone and closing them on some sort of a trial or some sort of a deal to give you a chance to do something for them. Now, honestly, probably one of the most asked questions when it comes to this kind of a business is, how do I charge people? How do I structure my offer? How do I take payment? All these things relating to, how do I actually get paid? How does this actually work? So personally for me, I never did any work for free. I know a lot of people that I've talked to have started off doing work for free to kind of build up their portfolio. That's not something I ever did because I honestly have just kind of always been a little bit cocky. My mindset was that I've been working on developing this skill for like months now. I put a lot of time and effort into this. I really think that I can get these businesses results, and I don't think that I should be getting them these results for free. As I mentioned, the main thing that I was really offering on these initial phone calls was some sort of a trial email where I would send one email, they would pay me a certain amount, we would see how it goes, and then if it went well, I would try to get them on some sort of a more long-term retainer type deal. The payment terms that I kind of worked with depended on the specific client. I was always sure to never start any work before getting paid at least half up front. I'm kind of paranoid when it comes to that stuff. I never wanted to be in the business of getting fucked over by a potential client. That is why I always charge at least half up front. When it comes to actually taking payments, I mean, you really have options. You can sign up for a Stripe account. Through Stripe, you can actually process credit cards yourself. You just get the credit card number over the phone, you get all the information, you press it into Stripe, and then it processes the payment for you. You can do that. You can also send invoices on Stripe and they can pay through there. I would say the majority of the clients that I work with tended to pay me through PayPal. I also even had one client that paid me via a check. They actually mailed me a check that I had to go cash at the bank, which is honestly kind of cool. So while the payment terms kind of did vary based on the client, what I would usually do is I had this thing that you see right here called a copywriting fee schedule. And what this is, it's basically just a list of my different fees for different kinds of things and different kind of packages that I was offering. What I would do is I kind of had a template for this, and then depending on the client, what I learned about them on the phone and everything like that, and how much I really thought I was worth to them, I would kind of edit these prices and change them around based on that specific client. I would either do that, or I would just kind of send them like this exact copy of this, and then I would kind of say, this is what I normally charge, but for this time, for this trial, instead of charging, say, $350 for an email, I actually did this for that first client that I was showing you. Instead of charging you $350 for an email, I'll take some money off of that and we'll say, let's do $275. How about that? And I'm not gonna lie, I am a little hesitant to give specific advice about pricing because it really does vary depending on the client and the type of service you're providing. I think once you have clients that you're working with on a retainer, I would never ever charge anything less than at least like $1,000 a month. And honestly, like that's on the low end. Like ideally you're charging them 2, 3, 4, 5, 10K a month. Obviously you have to be delivering results to justify those prices, but I would never ever do any sort of long-term work for a client that I wasn't getting paid at least $1,000 a month for. And then always remember when it comes to taking payment, when it comes to getting clients, that you have not actually closed the client until you receive some sort of payment. A lot of times what will happen is you'll get someone on the phone, they'll sound really good about it, they'll sound excited, they'll sound like they want to move forward, but then they'll have some sort of a little reason that they can't get moving forward right now. I gotta talk to my wife about it. I gotta check with our marketing guy. He's gotta approve this first. My aunt's grandma's dog walker is in the hospital. I gotta go take her some flowers. Whatever it is, people tend to have a lot of different excuses, and most of the time they're BS. Just understand, don't get too excited. Until you actually have payment, you have not actually closed them, so don't get your hopes up until you've actually received that money. Now, as for monthly retainers and the specific ways that I charge my clients, here are a few examples. As I mentioned, I would get them some sort of results in this trial. I would send one trial email out to their list, and most of the time it would perform pretty damn well. I'd charge them a couple $100 for it. It would make them a couple thousand back, and they'd be like, oh, so we're paying this guy a couple $100, he's making us a couple thousand back. We should do this more consistently. This sounds like a good idea. When I get on the phone, I'd be like, yeah, Bob, it is a fucking good idea. I'm good at what I do. So one of the deals I had with my clients was basically writing like daily emails. It wasn't every single day, but it was 5 days a week, every weekday. The deal that I had with them was I would write 5 emails a week for them. They would pay me $1,250 a month, and then I would also get 2% of the total revenue generated from those emails. That 2% didn't usually add up to a whole lot. It was maybe like a couple extra $100 a month, but it was still extra money, right? And I think it's probably a good idea if you can to get paid something on performance. It incentivizes you to do a better job. It incentivizes them to kind of want to work with you more because there's a little bit less risk. 2% was kind of like nothing, but like to me when I was first starting out, I was like, hey, 2%, I mean, that's better than 0%. Like, let's do it. So that was my deal with that. That was actually that supplement company that I showed you earlier. And then for another one of my clients, it was a little bit less intensive and a lot more money per email. I was just writing for them 1 email per week, and they were paying me $1,000 a month flat. Another thing people tend to worry about is like contracts. Like, do I need to get this in writing? I want to make sure I don't get fucked over, whatever. So I think, yeah, you can write up a simple contract. What I tended to do is I think what I did most of the time was I would just send an email with kind of the basic terms of our agreement, and then I would just be like, reply back yes if you agree to these terms. I'm not sure how official that is, but it worked for me, and honestly, I don't think that it's all that important, especially if you're getting at least half of the payment up front. Then like you shouldn't really ever be in a situation where you have to worry about your client fucking you over. And again, while I do think that you should definitely increase your prices over time as you become more valuable, as you get more clients, as you get better results for your clients, I really do think that it's best to start out charging between $1K and $2K a month for these types of monthly retainers. There are definitely other services that you can provide that are kind of more like quote unquote higher value that get more disproportionately great results that they will actually be willing to pay you more for. But I think when you're first starting out, it's honestly like just a battle against yourself in a lot of ways with imposter syndrome. In all likelihood, you're not going to feel ready for this. You're not going to feel like you're actually going to get them results, and you're kind of going to feel like an imposter, right? That's what imposter syndrome is. So I think by starting out with kind of this lower level retainer, you're able to justify it to yourself a little bit more that, yeah, you know what? I actually am worth this amount of money. I have skills. I'm good at this. I can get them these kind of results. This is what I deserve to get paid. I think that's a good place to start when you're first starting out. And folks, really like that right there is kind of the entire process. There's definitely a lot more intricate details that you can get into. This isn't like everything that you could ever need to know, but I think this is a really solid top-down view of this entire business model that should give you a lot of really good places to get started. Before we end this video, there's just 2 things that I want to do. I want to give you some kind of closing tips in regards to your mindset and some other things so that you're actually able to go out and do this successfully. And then I want to make sure that you're aware of some of these other resources that you can use to learn more about this stuff if this is something you really want to get into. So first tip I have for you is that this isn't nearly as hard as you probably think it is. At the end of the day, this is like probably the most simple business model you could ever get into. What I learned when I started writing copy is that most people who call themselves copywriters, like they're not actually good at writing copy. It's just like anything else. Like the majority of people who do something just kind of suck at it. If you're actually diligent, you actually do the work, you really can get to a point where you can get people results like fairly quickly. That leads into the next point. It doesn't have to take as much time as you probably think. Looking back, I really could have gotten started with this like probably 3 months or so earlier than I actually did. You're never really going to feel ready to do this. I think the best thing you can do is really just take that leap, put yourself out there, start sending out some cold emails and see what happens. Again, getting results for clients isn't nearly as complicated or hard as you probably think. Another big thing, make sure that you worry about problems in the right order. All too often what I see, and honestly I had this tendency when I was first starting out, I think a lot of beginners kind of have this tendency, and that's to worry about problems that are like 5 steps down the road that they're not even close to facing yet. I'm not saying you shouldn't be thinking ahead and preparing for the potential issues that you're likely to face, but you can't let these things paralyze you before you even get there. It's kind of pointless to worry about what am I going to say to this potential client once I get them on the phone when you can't even get a client on the phone because you aren't even sending cold emails. If you can't even get a client on the phone, then what you're going to say to them on the phone, that's irrelevant right now. What you really need to be worried about is how do I get a client on the phone? Or probably the biggest worry that people have is, well, can I actually get them results? Do I actually know what I'm doing? That holds a lot of people back from actually going forward with this stuff. And obviously, like, yeah, you want to be able to get them results, but at the same time, you don't have any clients yet. If you don't have any clients yet, what you really need to be worried about is getting clients, not getting them results yet. Because once you have the clients, then you can actually go out and worry about getting them results. If you get a client and you can't get them results, then you'll learn that the hard way and that'll suck. But in my opinion, that's a hell of a lot better than letting the fear of not being able to get them results stop you from actually trying in the first place. Next thing, you need to be able to face rejection. This game, as I've mentioned, I think multiple times in this video, this game is a game of rejection. You're going to get rejected like 95 times out of 100. But at the end of the day, like I kind of like to think of it like e-commerce. Like out of 100 people who visit your store, if you have a store that actually converts, maybe like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% of them are actually going to convert. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 100 people are actually going to buy your product. In business, like the majority of the people who you offer your services, your product, whatever to, they're not going to want it. They're going to say no. But you don't need everyone. You only really need, especially with something like this, you only need a very small handful of clients to actually start making pretty good money. Next up, don't forget the entire root of this whole business, and really just like any business at all. You have traffic and you have an offer. When it comes to this, your offer is your copywriting services. The traffic is the leads that you're reaching out to via cold outreach. There's a lot of little details and it's really easy to get stuck in the weeds with this kind of stuff. But if you really just take a step back and you understand like, oh, it's very, very simple. If I just focus on these real key things, that's really what I need to be doing. You're going to be a hell of a lot better off than someone who's just like very, very focused on the little details that don't actually really matter. Always keep in mind, this is kind of an abundance mindset thing, that there are more people out there who need you than you need them. Of course, this might not actually be true depending on who you are. If you're broke and you're living on the side of the road, then you probably do need a client more than they need you, but you can't act like it. You can't think like it. You always have to be of the mindset that I'm someone who has a particular set of skills that is very valuable to people. People who own businesses, they need these skills. There's millions and millions and millions and millions of businesses out there, and I'm guessing there's probably not millions and millions and millions of freelance copywriters. Maybe there are, but like it's definitely a significantly less number of millions than the number of millions of businesses out there. Keep that in mind. If you get rejected, like you have thousands of other potential prospects out there that you can reach out to. Don't get discouraged. In all likelihood, you're always kind of going to feel like an imposter, and really what you have to do is just like get the fuck over it. It's totally normal, but if you let it, it will absolutely destroy your ability to be successful with this kind of thing. Put that feeling aside, look in the mirror and tell yourself, I'm the best, I'm the man, I can get these businesses results. Do something. I don't know, maybe that'll work for you. Understand what imposter syndrome is and just be aware of it and just try not to fall into it. Understand that, again, this is all very simple, but it does require a hell of a lot of hard work. Simple is not the same thing as easy. And really, I think this applies to just about every business alive, but really especially this type of business is speed is really like better than everything else. The faster you can get started with this stuff, the faster you can fail, the faster you can actually learn the real lessons that will help you succeed. This is a really important one, especially if you come from a background where your parents were kind of telling you like rich people are bad or sales is bad, or you're just kind of that mindset that like selling is slimy. A lot of people, when they hear the word sales or selling, they think of like a used car salesman who's trying to scam you. In reality, salesmen are some of the most ethical and best people alive when they're selling good products that actually help people achieve their goals. I've literally had people thank me for selling them and closing them so hard. They were presenting so much resistance and I was just not letting them go. I was like, dude, I know you're right for this. I know this is what can help you get to where you want to be. And then they were very hesitant when I was on the phone with them, but for whatever reason, they ended up going forward with it. And then later on, they thanked me that I was pressuring them so hard because it really did help them get to where they wanted to be. When it comes down to it, this skill of copywriting is an extremely, extremely valuable skill. Every single business in existence that markets their products, which, you know, most businesses, they market their products. If they market their products, they probably use words to do that. And if they use words to do that, then your skill of being able to write copy is extremely valuable to them. Just about every business in existence wants to make more money, and this is the skill that will help you help them do that. This kind of business model, freelance copywriting, offering a service to people in exchange for payment, this works literally every single day. Right now, yesterday, the day before that, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 40 years ago, this has worked for thousands and thousands of people. People ask me all the time, like, is dropshipping dead? Does dropshipping work? Like, yeah, of course it fucking works. If, and it's a big if, this goes for just about anything, if you actually put in the work and you're diligent and consistent about it. At the end of the day, just about everyone, and like, I actually genuinely mean this, like just about everyone can do this. Unless your IQ is like 80 and you live in a place that doesn't have electricity, then like the only thing stopping you from actually doing this is yourself. If you truly want it bad enough, I honestly think that you will do whatever it takes to get it, no matter how hard that is. With this, and really again, this goes for just about any business that you could try to start. In my opinion, the overwhelming majority of it is just a battle with your own mind. If you understand that and can kind of overcome your monkey brain type tendencies, that's really the main thing that I think will help you succeed with this kind of thing. Now, all that semi-inspirational, motivational stuff over, here are some final resources I want to leave you with in case you want to get more into this stuff and learn more about it and really dive in. The first one is going to be a guy named Bob Bly. I believe his website is bly.com. He's a freelance copywriter that has been writing for like decades now. He's an older guy now, but he's really, really, really knowledgeable about this stuff. He has a shit ton of really great resources on his website. I highly recommend that you go check those out. Of course, Ben Settle. This is really the guy that I learned the overwhelming majority of this stuff from. If nothing else, I really, really, really recommend that you go check out his podcast. I believe it's just called the bensettle.com podcast. I've listened to every episode like 2, 3, even like 4 or 5 times over. It's not so much about the tactical stuff that people find really sexy. It's more more so about the principles and fundamentals that will really help you actually succeed in business. Ben was really one of the first resources I found when it comes to this stuff, and it just helped me immensely. Like, I can't even overstate how much his stuff has helped me. I really, really recommend that you check him out, listen to his podcast, get on his email list, all that kind of stuff. And then finally, a plug of my own, of course. This entire presentation that I put together for you here has basically just been a condensed version of my copywriting course. If you want to learn all this stuff like all in one place as quickly as possible, both actually how to write copy that's actually good and also how to actually go out and get clients, that's literally exactly what it is. It's extremely in-depth. At this point, like over 1,000 people are inside of it. It's been one of my greatest successes, one of the things that I've poured the most time into like throughout my entire, business career. I've still to this day yet to get a single negative review about it. Every single thing that I've heard about it from someone who's bought it has been positive. Usually it's $467, but literally just for this video, if you're watching this video, this is the only place that you can get it for this price. I put a special link in the description. It should be the first link in the description to get it for a ridiculous discount at just $98. That's the original price I launched it at, and I don't think it has been that low ever since then. Again, I know that a lot of you who watch my videos are more interested in dropshipping than you are in something like this. The way I see it is this is a really, really good stepping stone to get into dropshipping if you're low on funds and don't really have the skill set that you actually need to succeed with dropshipping yet. The skills that it teaches you carry over directly to dropshipping. Personally, I think that one of the reasons I was able to be so successful with dropshipping so quickly was because I had this experience first. If you're just looking to get into online business like from scratch, you know absolutely nothing, I really do think this is the best way to get started. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got a lot of value out of this. This is probably one of the most intense videos that I've ever made. I put honestly a shit ton of time into making this video, so if you liked it, if you got value from it, I'd really appreciate it if you liked, commented, subscribed, shared it with someone, put it out there for the world to see. I don't know, something like that. If you want to get my course, I'm not sure how long it's going to be at $98 instead of $467. So if you want to get it, link in the description. It'll be the first one. Get that. I think you'll enjoy it. Yeah, I know you'll enjoy it. If you like this video, you will fucking get immense value out of that course. That's all I gotta say. All right, folks. All that said, this video has been incredibly long, and I hope you enjoyed it and all that stuff. Comment something down below. Yeah, just comment something. Yeah, just like something. Just say hey, Hey Nate, what's going on? Maybe I'll reply back. I'll be like, yo, what up, dude? It'll be good. It'll be good. Thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate you very much. I'll talk to you later. Peace.